listening to the Law Enforcement Pirate Radio Network. Radio Free Larry presiding.
You can run, but you can't hide.
Radio Free Larry.
All right, here we go again. Buckle up, rough roads ahead. Here we are on a July 4th, 2023. Kind of a warm day already starting. Theoretically, we have rain tomorrow. If it rains enough, we'll have a spate of cooler weather. That's going to be welcomed. Looking like 80 to 92 or something like that at the most, maybe even 80 to 90. It just depends which way it goes. I didn't know that they had muffins here in the morning. I can't go crazy on muffins because I'm trying to lose weight, but it's interesting. I didn't know the whole time I was here they had free muffins and granola bars. But, I just, it's saturated fat and everything else that you don't want. All right, I need a massage. And again, you're going to suffer from me not getting the massage. And no, I'm not crazy. Obviously, you pay massage therapists a lot of money to fabricate statements. And sometimes they argue. So they know by blocking me from an apartment, there's no way for me to call a massage therapist in to record the session, and they know I won't seek massage therapy or I'll fall into their trap. Again, the idea of making the apartment only available a week to 10 days later, that's available to everybody else that same day. God is not mocked. Again, you've already caused damage beyond repair in my life and my health. You didn't do it for any specific reason other than you're criminals, devils, antichrists, witches, sorcerers, murderers. Your father is the devil. Every last one of you shall be revealed. Sealed. Boy, the world changed, didn't it? Wow. Now I went into hiding, I guess. So again, the violence that we're seeing is being created using psychological methods. Some of it is just general, and some of it is direct. And that general and direct can also be broken down to individually general, individually direct, and then group general and group direct. I was just talking to this black guy over here. We were discussing, he agrees that if the black people took over, it would just be the same thing all over again. But it would be just different people being affected. And maybe not, really. Because, again, the whole thing is a scam. Thanks, sir. This dog's like, it's a different dog. The person has like a few dogs. Keep watching me. So it's getting warmer. It's going to be a hot day, but tomorrow it's going to rain and it's going to start to cool. So that's nice. I wish I was in Olathe on the pass walking versus in the middle of a service road based extended stay. there's no way out in reality other than those that committed those crimes against me under the color of law not committing those crimes. So don't let them make you believe that all I have to do is this or all I had to do was that. That's a lie. So again, they're engaged in pushing me out of here while blocking me from where I'm going. That's part of depletion. Obedience isn't like they would tell you, yeah, we're trying to, his own statements, we're trying to make him obedient. Like in a good way, like, we're carrot and a stick. We're trying to get him to do the right thing. What I'm telling you right now, the obedience is the obedience into adulted sexuality, into violence, into mass shooting, and into crime. They're psychologically torturing people to be criminals, and they're not testing anybody. You can't even test anybody. Even if you had the best officers, the best psychological people, you can't test people that way. It leaves a lasting scar. I use a positive outlet for that scar. This is a positive outlet no matter what they say. No matter what they say. They're not us. They're not the United States of America. They took over, but they can never be us. And that's what drives them to the insanity levels that they are driven to. They're sellouts. They work for United Arab Emirates, Russia. It's shadow remuneration. And at a certain point, those entities put people into power. And then the system is self-perpetuating. In the Marshal Service, they put narcissists on the recruiting boards. Who do you think they recruited? Narcissists. I don't care if you're the greatest fugitive hunter or the greatest sex traffic stopper. If you're a narcissist, if you're causing things, then you're not doing anything but perpetrating the thing you say you're fixing. Or propagating, should I say. But they are perpetrating a fraud. The world's that fake at this point. I mean, God has shown over and over again that he desires me to have a better life and has shown what they're doing. Again, at the same time that they fabricated the case, they tried sexualizing me in massage therapy, and I wouldn't do it. And when I got out that they were doing something, I thought maybe the young woman was interested in some way. That she had, a lot of women in Santa Fe, New Mexico, they have sex, from 10 years old with their family members. So I figured she was just dysfunctional, that she was trying to have sex with me or something. And that, that's not how you start a relationship. First you're friends with somebody. So when they found out that I was speaking to people about what was going on, they started stalking me. And had already, they do a reverse stalking. What they don't want is for you to meet their people in life. Again, you all know, if you meet 30 people in a city the size of Santa Fe, you're going to see probably 10 out there shopping and everything else. So what they do is they send them texts as where I'm at, and they're not supposed to be there. So again, this is how they create a stalker. Again, understimulation, overstimulation, isolation, role players that are actually fraudsters. So if I were to go to a massage therapy place, they would just make up a story. And it doesn't, see, you have to realize it's at that level. It doesn't matter. They'll make up a story, they'll write it down, and then 2 years later, they'll attack me, let's say in Colorado Springs, Colorado, saying that this is this is our evidence. I mean, that's really the world. Meanwhile, the person that's actually the criminal is paying them to put crimes on someone else. And that includes narcotics distributors, sex traffickers, pedophiles. Got to wonder if that cop was fired that actually arrested that pedophile. And where's it, Albuquerque? The state trooper pulls him over. He thinks he's doing a good job. Yeah, I'm going to arrest this pedophile. And they're like, pick him out. He arrested a pedophile. Next time we come in for him. I mean, that's reality. Well, he was a good cop, but, he seemed to slip. He might be fired by now. Who knows? I mean, of course, Albuquerque, they're all like, yeah, we arrested the pedophile. Seymour's lying. Yeah, he arrested that pedophile 5 years after he ran around the community impregnating children. So again, the lauding of themselves is also a scam, because the officer's only not even applying a Band-Aid to the level of pedophilia in New Mexico. Again, remember they had that great Ghost Society. Now they were younger, but he was a pedophile, and he was going to stop the pedophiles in the community. They put him in operation. He may have been this one guy that was part of it. Right. So what they're doing is they're isolating a man. They're using those methods. Now, when you look at those methods, you go, well, like, how does that work? Why would somebody be a pedophile based upon obedience, depletion? What was the other thing? Obedience, depletion. I forget what the other one was, but it's not only those. Those are only three. So what you have law enforcement and their informants engaged in psychological manipulation that we call spycraft, psychological torture, prisoner of war camp technology, that type of thing. And it's causing pedophilia. And then they come in as these private investigators. They go across the earth hunting pedophiles, but what they're actually doing is they have a bunch of people that they have operated over the years. So when a case comes up, they say, oh, I know who did it. Or I think I know who did it. Or let us try to find it. So they go out there and they find, or even a law enforcement officer. But it's bullshit. They created the person. So they have like a pedophile farm. But why do they have that? Because some of them are pedophiles. And they have this system. If you don't do what they want, they'll put a pedophile case on you. I mean, think of that extortion mechanism. Think of that extortion mechanism. If you don't do what they say, you're going to be. You see him do it to Biden. You see him to do it to other people. Now, Biden had some funky stuff in his life there, touching on children. I don't touch people. You understand? And you don't touch me. I touched probably a handful of people in my life. And none of them were children. Actually, I touch my children every once in a while. All right, you're going to betray me. You're like a Judas. They did it. They psychologically operated my children into betraying me. And again, for their health, I just let it go. There was just no reason to allow my ex-wife being manipulated by government agents to have it, back and forth with my children. It's just going to hurt their psychology. So again, I've said over the years, I stayed because of my children. Like, my wife had already been abusive by the time I got into the federal government. So I was in, and I think this may have been a setup, I don't know, but I was in the Federal Bureau of Prisons as a correctional officer working a midnight shift. And I enjoy speaking to people. I was speaking to a very beautiful black woman that I worked with. I mean, she was model beautiful. She had prior military. And while we were speaking, she made sexual sounds. And it was obviously designed to open that area of discussion. I didn't see my wife when that happened. I saw my kids. Because my wife had already been abusive. And it had just ruined it. So I was staying for the children. There was, I tried to have a normal life with her, but it was almost impossible. So where I had stayed because of my children, I eventually left for their good. I mean, they probably don't see it that way, but there was just no way that the machine that I knew existed that was manipulating everything, and I was still asleep though, would be overcome. Again, you kind of call it the deep state, but it's also in the Republican Party. The deep state is government-wide, private sector-wide, and there's Republican and conservative. And then, people, it's not like strict. They go back and forth. There's some operators go back and forth. There's some ideological operators. I mean, they are terrorists. These officers that were doing this to me, they're terrorists, man. They're psychological warfare, spycraft terrorists. And they're terrorizing your community into crime, while they're saying that they're protecting the community from somebody that's dangerous. Of course, fabricated color of law at that point. So again, that's a big one. I use the term fabricated color of law. The federal charge is color of law, which means they're scamming while they're supposedly operating a law enforcement operation. You'll find it more so in criminal investigation than you will anywhere else, but you don't find it charged because criminal investigators have to charge you, so they will not charge for it. So again, one thing to the Attorney General's credit, he's not the investigator on the street that's lying to the Attorney General. But yet, at this point, you should be obviously. It's obvious that they're defrauding not only the government and the people, they're defrauding themselves in most cases. I mean, they're deluded, absolutely deluded. So in New Mexico, they want you, once they have damage control and it eventually hits your mind, they may be actually speaking to you about it. Those three people, that girl that was killed, the one that killed her, and the older man that was having sex with underage girls, but he was still, within 5 to 7 years of them, but it's still illegal, right? We're part of something. They're only one cell. Now, I don't know whether he knew anybody else that was part of it. Again, they're shadow recruited, shadow put in operation. New Jersey said, I mean, it's a very sensitive topic, but you have to understand, you can't allow the things I'm describing because that is your problem. We can heal the rest away, believe me. Or majority of it. So in New Jersey, they had those people, and I received the vibration that it was kind of along the lines of what I'm saying. The people that are filming people, they're pedophiles. They're catching them as being a pedophile. Now, catfishing, that's what it really is, and it's fraud. They're manipulating the person to be that. And again, you go, well, how could that? Half these people are just living a no life. They're alone. You have to understand that psychological manipulation at the level of CIA technology is wrong. It has maybe limited usefulness in combat, but what's the reality? If it's people that are manipulating the world because they're money-grubbing, greedy pieces of shit, then it's not going in the direction that we need it to go, and therefore then it is criminal operation, felonious criminal activity, including capital murder. Again, if you're a respecter of persons, remember, God is not a respecter of persons. Therefore, if we become respecter of persons, they'll be able to dupe us. And some of you are willfully duped. You just want to act like you're duped. So in New Jersey, there was these group of people running around filming and catching the pedophile, but it came to the point where the government said, no, we're not going to allow that. Because, number one, that's the big scam. It's even in missing exploited children. Now, could missing exploited children be actually something good? Yes. Is it? No, not at this point, because they're doing what I say they're doing. So again, respecter of persons, they have to not be that criminal to even be like, and let's say they can't even force pedophilia, which they do, and I'm sure of it. Let's say that they simply are taking out a loose end for a senator, for a congressman, for a mayor, for a mob boss, for a narcotics distributor, for a sex trafficker. That's wrong. But I'm telling you, as I stand here today, they can create pedophiles out of thin air. The word Project Artichoke used, hypnosis. When you go back to the NVIXM psychological, if I said it right, it's close to that sex cult the FBI arrested, that if you go back to their methods, that's what they're using. So I think they're narcissistic in the FBI. I think they do that to simply screw my head, saying, look, we arrest people like this. How do you like that more? Because that's what they're using. And that's not only what they're using, that's some of what they're using. So there's 3 methods, and I guess I could look it up, but one's obedience. Trying to figure out which vehicles. Oh, there it's the AMBO. Got to heal the AMBO. Now, your ambulance would say med act. That's seeing. And it would mean something else if you weren't doing it. Apparently, some people have been killed by denial of medical care. And I routinely denied medical care by they use psychological torture to do that. So these methods, obedience, depletion, and I can't remember the third one, but there's even more than that. So it's not even, it's not even a tip of the iceberg. The word hypnosis, that's a hypnotic effect. And you become compliant to your abuser. If your abuser's a police department or an FBI or a CIA or a corporate leader or a chamber of commerce, then that's who they are and that's what they are. And they cause that hypnotic. You ever see women, they go back to the abuser? Men, I was kind of the same way. And actually, my wife, little did I know, had actually started a campaign to make me look like the abuser. And of course, the government loved it. They were probably part of it. Me being asleep, I did a great job staying alive and having her not sent to prison. I mean, it's just amazing that I was able to say, again, glory to God. That's the only thing I can say. I was like a kung fu expert when the knives came at me. So, she would do stuff like run at me and then hit the door because I stepped out of the way, and then she would like, you hit me, and that kind of thing. It's crazy. But the government was part of that. Believe me, they were empowering her to be that person, while depowering me to be in control of the household. Again, church was part of that. Man, woman. Not only is she a woman, she's a woman who had a lot of issues. Now, they were trying to put those issues into my life to say it was me, not her, or both of us. I think they were trying to discredit her also. Again, I never understood exactly what was happening. We caught lawyers taking a malpractice case, and they got paid to do it. Again, it's not only the money, it's the malpractice suit that discredits a doctor. So he's a lawyer's doctor that we used. That was part of it. Again, this system exists. So, if one person wants to destroy you over here, then there's something over there, right? So again, they took these big lawyers that were federal lawyers, took the contract out of they never put it into the written contract, what they told us they were going to do. And they said, well, we never said malpractice. And of course, they were getting paid before we even got there. Again, the deep state doesn't want me to have money. Why? Doesn't want my wife to have money. Why? Because then we can live a better life and they can't touch us. Or if they touch us, it has very little effect. Got to remove a spell from a vehicle. It wants to be assaulted. And I know it's all of you. So let's go back to where I was. So this hypnotic effect is what is causing the person to not be able to control themselves. So when we look back through cases and how we charge them, and it's not perfect in reality, but it does exist, that people that are victims of that type of crime, and it's crime that the government's engaged in the private sector cronies, and that type of crime, we usually don't charge them. Or we go with a very minimal charge, and they usually get probation or something, and then they testify against the crook. In these particular cases, it's gone national. I mean, it's gone global, and it's the beast. So they have the holy grail of psychological methods. But what do you think the reality is? They don't work. It's a scam. But an officer can't tell you that without having a life like mine, or probably worse. They probably end up like Jonathan Luna, Assistant Director Dudley, Jonathan Luna being a assistant U.S. attorney. They'd end up like Bustamante, end up stealing or pawning a shotgun. Well, and you think about it, you say, well, how could Bustamante do that? That makes no sense. He's a law enforcement officer. He should know better, even if it's like a stupid criminal thing, right? How did they do that? What I'm speaking about, they hypnotized him using these psychological methods. And some of their co-workers are probably the chief of that district now, and assistant chief, and they were the ones that did it. They're not only criminal psychological warfare operators, which doesn't mean they're in the criminal division of psychological warfare. It means they are criminals operating the holy grail of our psychological methods to cause a co-worker to fail, to cause a member of the public to fail. Again, causing them to fall. So those are the real people that are going to hell with no way out. They reverse it. Well, I'm in the church and I didn't steal a shotgun like Bustamante. But yet they're the devil that causes it. Using, again, advanced CIA techniques, witchcraft, spycraft, all those type of things. Psychological torture, psychological warfare, prisoner of war camp technology, for criminal gain, for criminal use, including murder in the first degree. So when we get to Santa Fe, we have that ghost organization, and it's not much, but it's evidence. I mean, it's a lot of evidence, but it's not like to say, in other words, they can refute it. Again, when we look at a case, what can they say in defense? They can say, well, it's a bunch of kids, a bunch of young people. It goes all the way to the chief of police. It goes all the way to the mayor's office. And the mayor may not be complicit, but the mayor would say, I don't touch that. Or they'll tell me that my nephew will say that I touched him. That's what did the mayor in Santa Fe to try to dirty him. Now, I don't know if he did or didn't, but there's a lot of psychological issues and drug addiction in Santa Fe, and it's very easy to psychologically manipulate somebody into saying something like that. And very little enforcement, because the cops themselves use that. So when we look at that, we actually have adults working in stores. They're saving the community again. They're all saving the community. But it's the bullshit. It's just what the Bible tells us would happen. Again, then you have the LGBTQ people, and they say, well, he's talking about the Bible, and we don't like the Bible because the Christians. Well, I'm not them, and they're not Christians, really. They're fake. They're what's called the synagogue of Satan. So when you're a gay person and they're trying to put you down from the church, call them the synagogue of Satan, because they're not the church. But what Satan's doing is making you believe it's the church, and then you reject God, reject anything that you could possibly find within the Bible. The end of the story, again, when you go through the Old Testament to the New Testament, when you get to the New Testament, the idea is this. We've all fallen short of that perfection that is God, whatever that is. Again, there's no need to split hairs. They say, well, if you don't exactly talk about every single sin and confess it to me, and I could use it against you, it doesn't actually say that's the only way to get saved. Again, Jesus says, he has people outside of that. So again, the conversation with Nicodemus, I believe, came before Jesus spoke about the other folds. Because he spoke to Nicodemus, he said, you must be born again, that type of thing. Even there, he spoke about being born again of the water. If you look at figurative spiritual meaning, there's a lot there. But he also said, if he told the Sadducees, Pharisees, I think it was, they were saying, well, are we blind also? And he said, you shouldn't have told me you can see. Now, obviously, he could physically see. They could see. They spiritually see. He said, if you didn't spiritually see, your sins would not be held against you. Mm. The majority of what Jesus was speaking about may have been actually spiritual sight, but all the people in power don't want that to be known. So they make it all about physical sight and confuse everyone with the enlightenment that Rabbi Jesus brought to earth. The fact that we have spiritual vision and that that's what's driving the power circles that have actually become anti-power circles. They want you to believe that you're just not as good as them. So Jesus said in his lifetime, recorded. Again, how many times did he say something like that it wasn't recorded? I mean, I don't know if they did that. They once, there was a figure that I wish I could find, but I was studying to be a preacher, trying to figure out things, and I was asleep, so it wasn't going to work. The more I studied to be a preacher, the more things would get messed up because they didn't want me to be a preacher. Right. But when I was studying Charles Spurgeon and all these things, you would have these, anecdotes and different things you could put in your sermons. Again, I couldn't preach, but God said I did inside. What was happening is, especially in the shower, people sing in the shower. I would begin preaching in the shower. But it would go away after like 5 seconds, 10 seconds. It would just disappear. But God said it continued inside. They blocked you from yourself. So as soon as I woke up, I was like, boom, I could preach. That was it. Boom. Preach, sing, preach, dance, martial arts. Instantly. So God said, see, has nothing to do with anybody being better than anyone. It's me. So in the same way, when people don't have themselves, again, they'll say, well, that's a gift. You have to, no, everything in your mind is a gift. If you have the ability to think past a crime, that's a gift from God. So when they engage in those activities, those depletion activities, you begin to not be able to think past effectuating a crime. In fact, you have nothing in your mind but them. So they're actually possessing you of the crime, and the sin is in their thing there. So again, to go back to the Bible and LGBTQ, are you supposed to be gay? No. Am I supposed to be in this body? No. It's that simple. Are we supposed to be here in a sinful planet effectuating strife all day? So what's happened is LGBTQ is enlarged in the Bible because we all engage in something. There's more people that have been destroyed because of and have engaged in an abomination other than LGBTQ. Now, why is it an abomination? Because it's supposed to be a man and a woman. But if you're a victim of something making you that, again, nature, let's call it nature. You can call it nature if that's how you see it. Then it's not your fault. Okay. You also have to understand when that scripture was written, track the Bible and see how it changes on who the bad person and the good person is. LGBTQ people were Republicans, forcing things on people, forcing sex on people, not respecting that people have religious rights. And again, that's where they're trying to take you again. But their idea of not allowing religious rights, again, making a cake, if they're Christian, it tells you to bake the cake. The Bible tells you to bake the cake. Now, what do I think I'm doing? Greater works. Jesus said we do greater works. Believe me, Jesus says back, I wish I didn't say that. Okay, Paul's going to take care of this. Okay, who else can do this? Oh no, all these years, all these centuries, all these ages, nobody's doing any freeing of the captives. Oh, there's Larry. Larry. Oh, he can't hear us. He can't hear us. They put him asleep. So the idea is we all engage in strife. In your mind, LGBTQ is worse, right? It's in my mind too. But God is always like, look, see, God, that's TMI. Will you stop it? God's like constantly re-educating me away from your stuff. But strife is actually the biggest abomination on the planet, and God has destroyed more communities because of strife than anything else. Causation of strife. So when you get to the end of what the scripture says, it says we've all fallen short of the glory of God. You can't get to. I judge the things that cause us to fall. I don't judge the fallen, and I don't judge it. I witness the things and I educate the things that cause us to fall, and that's who's actually going to hell. If you're LGBTQ, most likely you're what's called spiritually blind from not being it. Again, for you, that's a strange term, but that's kind of where it falls in. As long as you're not out there using witchcraft and trying to make people gay. And again, there's a variety of ways that witchcraft would effectuate or would be engaged in and effectuate, I guess. Like isolation. You isolate somebody until they're gay. That will cause you to go to hell. So again, we're so far past where they were when Jesus was there that in the churches we're so far behind Jesus. We're not where Jesus was. We're not where Paul was. And, churches, they kind of have this contrite thing and they go, well, I'm working on myself. Well, no, if you're a devil, you're not working on yourself. You're working on everyone else and causing them to fall. So, we have these knights in shining armor catching the pedophile online, but we don't know what they did to the pedophile to make the pedophile a pedophile. And it may not even be them. It might have been somebody that put them in motion when it was ready. Again, missing exploited children, psychologically torturing somebody into a sex crime, adulterated sexuality. Again, it isn't always a sex crime. They can just make somebody adulted sexuality and then allege, impropriety based upon that. Again, PIs working for an organized crime effort, working for Giuliani. They would do that type of criminal activity. They would engage. Larry Ray engaged in that criminal activity and then used it on those children or those young people. I guess they were children at the point. They were, 18 or older. Larry Ray is one of them. See how they do that? No, Larry Ray's not part of it. Larry Ray is part of the people that are doing this to me. He only went rogue because he used it in that manner, but yet they use it in that manner. Again, his was further than most people go. Law enforcement officers will come into a community, private eyes will come into the community, point at somebody like me and saying, we're going to save you from that guy. And then have sex with the women that they're saving from being with me. That's really happening, has happened, including in New Mexico. So again, that level of fraud cannot be accepted. That level of fraud is going to send people to hell. See what time it is here. Well, I'm going to take a quick break. Stay peaceful. Praise God in all that you do.